I'm just going to share my screen just so as I'll get the presentation up and running. Can you see that okay? Yeah. Okay, cool. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hand over, if Dan can pick up now, I'll mute myself and then and we'll get started. So over to Dan.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'd just like to start by saying thank you all for coming. We think that this is something that is a very important thing, a very important conversation for us to be having as a region. And from our point of view, to be able to deliver an event like this in partnership with an organisation like the Chamber, where we obviously engage heavily, and there's an enormous amount of respect between both organisations, it's a privileged opportunity for us to be able to speak to you kind of on this platform, and particularly around this issue. Quick bit of housekeeping just to expand on what Olivia said as well. If you do have any questions that crop up over the course of the next hour and you don't want to wait to the question and answer section at the end, that's completely fine. If you use that chat function that is in the bottom right hand corner, that group chat, we may not respond to it straight away when we see it, but what we will do is sort of collate those questions and then go back through them at the end as part of that Q&A section as well. By way of introduction, I mean, I'm not going to insult your intelligence, ask you to guess which one I am, but my name's Dan. I'm the marketing manager for the development manager.
And I'm Jess, so I'm the marketing executive for TDM, so I kind of deal with all things in the marketing space and also deal with kind of that learner engagement and marrying up the right apprentice with the right company.
Hi everybody, I'm Louise, the Learning and Development Rep for TDM. So my role at TDM is predominantly working with local businesses within the region, kind of understanding what skills gaps that you are facing or any issues that you may be facing in regards to training, and helping the local businesses to kind of identify some solutions that we potentially support with. Also work closely with Dan and Jess, identifying candidates coming through from schools and colleges and helping them find their first essential career position as an apprentice.
Perfect. So just to explain why we feel we're in a position to be prompting these sorts of conversations around digital transformation, and also just to give anybody in the room who's not come across us through a networking event or through sort of work in the past. TDM stands for the Development Manager, and what we specialise in is the delivery of tech and digital work-based learning, predominantly through apprenticeships. However, Lou is later going to talk about a few of the different solutions that we offer. Primarily, there are three categories of learner that we work with. So the first category that we would sort of talk about is career entry apprenticeships. So that's anybody looking to take those first initial steps into a tech and digital career. So obviously you've got your school leavers, college leavers, university leavers. However, those initial apprenticeships aren't limited to anybody at any stage or walk of life. It's anybody that would like to begin a journey into a tech and digital career that doesn't have that qualification. The retraining programs that we offer are offered to people already in employment, but traditionally don't necessarily have a professional qualification yet or want to take on a bit of additional workplace learning. And then the third category is our degree learners. So as a training provider, we are quite unique in that we offer that degree equivalent work-based learning program, and that prompts and sort of sparks critical thinking and in underpinning the behaviours and attitudes, as well as the technical expertise required to take those steps into leadership and to really start driving industry and driving change. And also at the end of that, all of our degree learners come out with a Bachelor of Science degree accredited by the University of Wolverhampton as well. And as I say, we're quite unique in offering that degree pathway but through a work-based learning experience. The reason that we say we're a coaching organisation is that our delivery is very much tailored from learner to learner, employer to employer. So we guide and we coach both employers and learners along that sort of apprenticeship journey towards those sort of those goals that have been set out at the start of the program. But that's different for each employer and that's different for each learner. So what we would never say is that we teach a qualification. We don't teach an apprenticeship. What we do is we coach towards that additional value, that end of sort of program value that's being added to that employer. And we work closely with the employers, closely with our mentors, and closely with the learners in order to coach them towards delivering that, because apprenticeships are employer-driven and employer-led. The other thing that we do that is quite unique in our industry is that we also invest a lot of time and resource in professional development coaches. So we obviously work very, very closely with our technical skills coaches, who are normally people that have worked in the industry and in the field that they're teaching prior to becoming a coach with TDM. But we also invest in professional development coaches, and their remit is to underpin a learner's sort of experience with those soft skills that are actually often, you know, the kind of the difference in a career. So you could be the best software developer on planet Earth, but if you don't feel comfortable answering the phone, if you don't know how to conduct yourself in a workplace, that then creates, in my opinion, a ceiling for how far you can potentially go in your career. So our professional development coaches dedicate their time to working with learners on those soft skills, which actually are just as important as all the technical expertise that we're providing. We've been doing this a long time, we've done it quite well, so we're now in a really privileged position where we've been able to align ourselves with some of the most globally recognised industry leaders sort of in our sector and in the digital world. So I mean, the names that will jump off the screen to you there, hopefully kind of Microsoft, CompTIA. We're very, very proud of the fact that we're a trusted partner of these globally recognised industry leaders, and as a result that kind of hopefully reflects on the quality of the education that we then provide. And then hopefully from the point of view of the three of us, if we've done our job properly today, by 4 o'clock, hopefully what you will have is a greater understanding of what I'm certainly talking about when I conversationally use the phrase digital transformation. You'll be able to contextualize that in your own little slice to the world. And then we'll also, once you've taken that learning and once you've applied it to your environment and to your specific challenges, we'll then also give you some solutions for potentially plugging a skills gap if you believe there is one, or how to advance further through this into this digital era, which we're already in, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, so we couldn't not mention it, could we? So I think what would be really nice from my point of view, and it is the only time you'll be asked for any sort of audience participation, but to better understand who we're in the room with and kind of the challenges that you're potentially facing, and therefore how we can potentially add value to you during this hour that we've got in front of you. Only as a quick introduction, what I'd like to do is just to go around, I'd like to go around the room and just ask you just to introduce yourself quickly, maybe tell us a little bit about your company, and then if I were to ask you the question, what's the biggest change that you've had to make as a result of the COVID-19 measures that we're all observing, what would that be? And just to give you all a moment to think of your answers, Jess is actually going to kick that off with the TDM example.
So yeah, as Dan said, we've had to transform a lot of the way that we run and how we act in TDM. First and foremost, we've had to transform from primarily a face-to-face learning environment to a virtual one. And for myself, a big part of that was applicant days. So for those of you that aren't sure what an applicant day is, we, in the marketing space, we review and filter those CVs that we get of people who want to get onto an apprenticeship, and before marrying them up with the right employer, we invite them into what's called an applicant day, and we kind of work through with them what an apprenticeship is. It's a bit of a same page conversation, making sure they're aware of what they're getting themselves into, so to speak, and that they know what they need to do to get through this and to perform and to be the best they can and get into the career they want to get into, and to help an employer. Generally, we would invite them into our Worcester or our Birmingham offices and go through that face-to-face and have that real hands-on experience and get to know those people and really have a strong relationship with them from the off. And transforming that into a virtual experience was quite a challenge for us, and for me in particular, doing that on a weekly basis. But it's actually gone from strength to strength, and we've turned a negative into a positive. They've been more engaging and haven't got the barrier of traffic, or if you're able to actually meet that person on time or whatever it might be, they're there, they're waiting, they're engaging, and it's actually been a really a positive experience from what could have been a big bump in the road, and we could have not taken to it as well, but we have, and we did, and we've learned from it, and we're doing it well. So I don't know if anybody else wants to share anything, so as we can talk a bit better about digital transformation as a whole and what problems you might have faced. If you don't want to, that's also fine, we can just carry on. But if you want to, you're more than welcome.
I don't mind going if nobody else wants to go.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So I work for a charity called the Little Princess Trust. We've had huge transformation as well, Jess, because we had to, so we provide free real hair wigs.
Oh, wow.
So all the hair that comes into us from over 100 countries now, we had to put it all in quarantine for 2 weeks before we could then get it into sorting status to sort for colour and length.
Right.
So that was, logistically, that was huge, because of course when people do donate hair to us, we like to thank them. So everything had to go on social media to explain that we wouldn't be able to thank them so quick.
Yeah.
Because obviously social media is our voice, isn't it, really?
Of course it is. Yeah, and it's
so that was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, you know, we do have a social media manager, and she's brilliant, but equally we have our own LinkedIn. So, you know, I personally need help with LinkedIn. And I understand it all, and I've been learning more about hashtags and how important they are.
Yeah.
And it's time, isn't it? You know, we're all working different. So, you know, when you ask the question, how is it different? Well, the hair for us was hugely different. We're all working from home. We have got a small team in the office for logistical reasons, but communicating is different. And this is great because we can all jump on Zoom, but not everybody can. Not everybody's got a camera.
Absolutely.
Not everybody can accept their emails, whether they're watching Judge Rinder in the afternoon.
No comment.
So some communication is better. I think a lot of us are working more and working more hours.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very easy to blur those lines, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a huge difference for us.
It is like a whole different world, and you have a new appreciation for things like social media that maybe you're not as prevalent using on a daily basis as you could be. It opens up new doors, and you think, wow, I didn't know I could do this, or use it like that. And you say everybody needs help with those different platforms, or how to use them in different ways, or the hashtags, and that's just one very big but also small part of it, if you know what I mean. But
yeah,
that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Can I just say, I went on another networking recently, and the man there said, it just hit with me, and he said, think of a hashtag as a magazine. So he said, you're putting your advert into the right magazine.
That's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah. It is.
That
it is.
helped me.
And you've got to choose the right magazine, because there's so many. So many. You've got to choose the one that's right for you, right for the company, and you're going to get the most out of, and the right people are reading. And it really is very much like that. And once you crack that and you know how to use it, how to do it, how to talk to people within it, it becomes it's a mini universe in itself. So I think it really has opened people's eyes, and even us, we don't know it all. Being a tech and digital provider and in the sector, we don't know it all. We're learning every day. So this has made us look at things differently as well. So yeah, wicked. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, should we crack back on, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. Unless anybody else has got anything they want to raise, but if not, I'm more than happy to carry on.
Okay, I'll go to the next slide. If anyone wants to share anything, pop it in the chat, and we can always talk about it as we go or at the end.
Yeah, so I think that what I'm really keen to talk about is kind of this phrase which is bandied around a lot, which is digital transformation, which sounds very vague, very large, very kind of all-encompassing. And the reason for that, quite honestly, is because it is. So when I try to simplify digital transformation, the easiest way I sort of contextualise it for people is that digital transformation is automation of services which aren't currently automated. So the simplest sort of business example that I can think of certainly is we're going way back when a business was done by two people in the marketplace meeting, having a physical meeting, having a physical conversation, and then trading, or writing a letter. And even that was sort of digital. But anyway, we're not getting into that. So it is essentially the digital transformation that was most professionally relevant at that point was the invention of the telephone. The invention of the telephone made business more efficient, more accessible, on the proviso that the two people at the end of that brand new phone both understood how to use it. And then you translate that forward. So then obviously fax machines, emails, to the point now where we're talking about guys like Elon Musk saying that by the end of this decade, vocal communication and communication as we know it through recognised language as we know it will be obsolete. It will be something that we do for fun and voluntarily, but it will not be the most efficient way of communicating business to business, person to person. That is the progression of technology that we're facing at the moment. And I think that from my point of view, the way to think about this actually is to think about, yes, the automation that we're familiar with and that we're potentially quite comfortable thinking about. So the production lines are the obvious one that everybody thinks of. So once upon a time, the factories were stationed by human workers, putting things together, quality controlled, finished thing at the end of the conveyor belt. Even the conveyor belt is a digital transformation, but finished thing at the end of the production line, goes out, person buys it, happy. That now we understand most factories are run off a bare minimum human staff and a huge output from a technological point of view. Those are the things that potentially are more normalised for us now. So we think about that as the digitisation of our professional world. What I'm talking about, and certainly what the future looks like now, is the things that we're probably potentially, certainly I am less comfortable thinking about, but are the reality that we're facing. So a good example, certainly in my world, so from the marketing world, and particularly copywriting, which is what I kind of built my career on prior to taking the management role, is that a lot of copy now, a lot of articles, a lot of opinion pieces, all those sorts of things are written by automated services. They're written by computers and software tools and services which research, process, writing styles from most engaged with articles on social media, picking out terminology, language, slang, all those sorts of things around a subject that is input at the start, and then they create an article based on all the other articles they find, all the writing styles that they find, the things that get the most engagement, the things that get the least engagement, the way that those are all put together, and then they produce you a blog. And we have all read one. I'm guaranteeing you that now. If you have read any content in the last couple of years online, at some point you will have read something which had got a journalist's name attached to it, but a bot, as they're called, a bot would have written it, and you wouldn't know the difference. And that's the way that this is going, and certainly from a copywriting point of view, that's the automation and that's the digital transformation that I am less comfortable thinking about, but have got to become understanding of. And I've got to understand where my value lies still within that world. And I think, I mean, just to throw another example out there as well, it was only one I saw literally over the weekend. There's a counselling service in Japan, and people are receiving counselling during this incredibly challenging time by bots. They're being counselled by a service that they know is not a human being on the opposite side of it, but that counselling is working. Because the language that's coming back, the things that are coming back are the same research that people go to at university and study, communicated in a way which feels conversational, and people are being counselled by a robot. And that's the automation, that's the transformation that for me is what we need to become aware of as a professional community, because I think that that's where this is going. And I'm going to expand on that more anyway. We've got a short video which should hopefully explain this really quite nicely and quite concisely. And then I'm going to expand on potentially what that means to the people who are in the room in the next slide. Cool. Jess, would you mind just pausing that just quickly? Yeah, it's looking like it's not coming through on the shared screen.
Oh, is it not?
No, it doesn't look like it. If not, it's not a problem. We can move on. I can sort of elaborate on what was in that video anyway.
No, that's fine. Where were we?
Right. Yeah, one more on. Perfect. So the content of that video was actually just really nicely produced, really strong imagery and sort of automated video anyway, ironically. Just sort of expanding on what I've just talked about, but on a much grander scale. So the way that technology is now laced throughout our life, if we're being perfectly honest, if we're going to simplify it, the reliance that we all have now on some technology or another, the contextualization of that, but then also kind of a little bit of a glimpse into the future of what augmented reality will mean for businesses going forward, virtual reality, sort of the robotics of everything, and all these sorts of things. You know what I mean? Like the video was just very much kind of a visual example of kind of what we're talking about today anyway. So what all of this means is that the workplace as we know it and the workforce as we recognise it is changing, and it will change, and it's changing every single day. And there are roles currently populated in this country and that are considered a key part of business infrastructure, jobs to go out and be found through recruitment platforms and things like that, that in not many years' time will no longer exist. New roles will have replaced them, and this is what we want to talk about today. But actually, the way that progression and advancement is happening is that we have got to be aware, and then therefore sort of analysing, identifying the opportunities for change in the workforce going forward, so that we as employers, we as professionals, we as people that are hopefully trying to shape our regional economy in the way that we would like to see it shaped, we need to be aware of these changes in order to react to them before it's a reaction, to be proactive in sort of addressing them, ensuring we equip ourselves with the skills to add value and to take on these new roles in order to maintain relevance, just in the same way that business people in whatever year had to understand how to use a phone, because they didn't very, very shortly, they'd be left behind, their business would be slower, it would be less efficient. Still possible to do it, but certainly outperformed by businesses that had embraced that emerging technology. And I think that, yeah, so that's all the scary side of it, which I don't mean to do, but it's trying to explain the gravity of kind of the situation that we're in and the nature at which, and the rate at which things are changing. Why this is important is hopefully kind of self-evident. I shouldn't hopefully need to explain this in too much detail. So the reality is now that, in my opinion, certainly, tech and digital, if we want to label it that way, is no longer a sector. It's no longer a separate entity. It's no longer an industry. There are companies obviously setting up within that sector, but the invention, the creation that is happening within the sector now is laced throughout our entire lives. We are all reliant on technology in one way or another, and that's why this is growing. It's because every single sector that grows is reliant on technology in order to grow. So the technology itself is advancing sort of from an economic point of view at a rate which is far eclipsing every other sector. And the reason for that is because every other sector is reliant on the technology in order to grow themselves. The reason that is important is that in 5 years' time, the next generation of workers, the next generation of educated young people are already using the technologies and are already becoming comfortable with the idea of having their life and their output really defined by the technology that they use and the apps they engage with, and they understand how to get the most out of those in order to facilitate and improve their lives. When they start to enter the jobs market, they will already be equipped with experience and, by virtue of new education, skills, which will mean that a jobs market reacting to technological change in 5 years' time will already be saturated with a new generation of workers who understand these technologies. What that means for us is that actually, as a training provider, it's our sort of social mission and responsibility to ensure that the entire region can benefit from this new technology, and that the education and the skills required in order to thrive in this digital era are in place in the companies that already make up part of this economy and certainly make a part of our ecosystem. So that, hopefully, again, not to scare anybody, but hopefully that's the bigger picture side of digital transformation, because the automation of life and professional life in particular is self-evident, and it's growing you see a new article every week about a way that a business has transformed their output in one way or another. What Jess is going to do from this point forward is go into the specifics of how that can be contextualised in our regional ecosystem and our regional economy.
Okay, yeah, so as Dan says, the digital landscape. So you've heard all of that, you've heard Dan say how important and how relevant it really is, but what are the facts? What's really hard hitting? What is really going to make me want to change my business? And quite simply, tech and digital is one of the largest sectors in the West Midlands, and as Dan rightly says, it's no longer really a sector. It is an entity in itself, and it is that thing that enables the growth. The most thriving sector by all doubt, and it's well placed to create thousands of new jobs and generate greater economic outputs in the coming decade. So over the next decade, the number of jobs are set to rise by nearly 14,000, from just over 70 to 84 in the West Midlands. And in the tech and digital sector alone, that's just that sector, if we want to still call it a sector for this time being. That's exactly where the growth is going, and that's where that digital skills gap is. That's a massive thing. That's a really exciting thing, but it's also very scary, because that can grow and grow and grow, but we need people to fill that. If we don't have the people to fill it, then that hole just becomes a lot bigger, and there's nothing we can do with it. It's estimated the West Midlands will need as many as 29,000 more skilled digital workers over the next 10 years. And that's just to cover those new roles that are emerging that Dan went over a couple of slides back. So those telemarketers are now becoming digital marketers. We need the software developers of this world. We need these people to be generating all of the new tech that's coming through and helping it maintain and be as strong as it needs to be, because tech and digital really is the fastest growing sector. And there's an emerging demand for critical technological skills and expertise, and that's not being filled. And that's where we come in as one of the many tech providers out there to start that expertise and to get those people with those skills, with that talent, harness that talent and really leverage it to the business opportunities and the companies that really do need it the most. So that's all well and good, that's great. But how can it help? How can certain initiatives out there be available that can support you with those decisions? So just one of those is a thing called Beat the Bots Fund. Now, hopefully you're aware of it, or you might not be, that's absolutely fine either way. A guy called Andy Street, who used to be the CEO of John Lewis and is now the Mayor of West Midlands, he actually launched a £5 million fund to support the region with just those tech and digital skills. And he also publicly backed our kind of setting off with this program, which we called Get Ahead in Digital Transformation. And that was our program that we have been able to pilot and get coaching programs out there to really help skill those tech and digital needs. And it's all about not just recruiting and skilling new people, but it's helping upskill current workers whose jobs could potentially be under threat of automation. So not just, you know, doing nothing with that situation, but helping that situation progress and grow and transform. So it's helping new and helping existing, which is really important because that expertise is still there and it just needs to be harnessed. And it could already be within your company right now. You could already have an apprentice. It's just about getting to know that person, know their talents, know their skills, know their passion. You could already have somebody who is really good at digital marketing. By just tweaking their job role, giving them more digital responsibilities like this program allows them to do, they could become that new person in your company that you really need that for without taking in or recruiting anybody new. Artificial intelligence, self-driving vehicles and robotics are getting better, then they're getting closer, as we touched on with Elon Musk and people like that. That's the other end of the spectrum. And we're talking about the everyday stuff that you can do or get people to do already in your company or recruiting new, that starts that ball rolling and really helps you get into that tech and digital world that we all need to be in right now. And that's only been highlighted even more so through this region, with more startups coming out of Birmingham last year than anywhere else in the country outside of London, for the obvious reasons. That's a phenomenal amount of startups to come from just one place within our region. So it's happening here. It really, really is. And the West Midlands is key for that. There are so many thriving ecosystems that it's a major thing, and it's not happening soon, it's happening now, and I think that's the important thing to know. So this is just one of the many powerful quotes that came from Andy Street when he was launching this, and I won't read it to you for the obvious reasons, I'm sorry if you're able to do that, but he basically highlighted how fast it's growing and how remarkable it really is. The West Midlands is almost seen as like the backbone of our future economy and the existing companies that are within it. And by just harnessing what the government needs right now, what our community needs, we are given that funding to be able to allow companies to harness those skills. The government, it wants that. It knows where the need is. The money's there for it. The funding's there for it. The levy is there for it. So harness it and use it because we really need it. And it's only going to get bigger and bigger. So that's kind of what Andy Street was getting across in this one particular quote that hit home with us, with our press coverage that we've issued with getting this Get Ahead in Digital Transformation coaching program up and running that is doing remarkably well now. Andy Street was really vocal in supporting us, like we said, and this is one of the many quotes that were really powerful to us. So just going into a little bit more depth of the Get Ahead in Digital Transformation and what it is. So the funding we secured from that WMCA funding pot was to pilot a coaching programme, with the end result being moving West Midlands residents into digital occupations. So the last thing we wanted to do was to offer a coaching programme that people could do whilst they're on furlough or while they were twiddling their thumbs and didn't really know what not to do. Really work hard for a coaching program and then do nothing with it. We wanted to do this coaching program, work with people and get an end result. It's all about that end outcome and getting the digital responsibilities being added to their job descriptions. And that's for employees. So for people already in a job, they could be exposed to this new area, digital marketing, software, cybersecurity, data analytics, whatever it might be exposed to new areas of that in the workplace. So they're getting more job satisfaction and the company is being able to be exposed to new realms they can go into. It's a 6-month Grow coaching program of support to be able to achieve those outcomes, and that's delivered remotely with our in-house coaching guys who are absolutely fantastic. And it includes a series of tech and digital courses that learners can access to support the outcome, and that's including cybersecurity, software development, digital marketing, digital transformation, IT networks and database management. And they can go on to do the whole of the program, and if they want to sit an exam at the end where they can get a certification, a globally acclaimed certification, which could be a CompTIA exam, it could be a Google Garage certification, where they can come out of it and say, I can do this. Not only can I do this, now let me do this. If I've already got a job, I can now go and do this in my job for my employer and take us to new heights. If they're not yet in employment and they're looking for work, we can now work with them to get into a job that allows them to put that skill into practice. Or hopefully the best outcome obviously would be to get them into an apprenticeship. So I just wanted to touch a little bit on the PR and social media side of things, because that's something I'm really heavy on in my role. It's always been really important to us and important for me. And it's been really important for our own digital transformation. We've used social media, it's been a big part of my job, but COVID's only emphasised the need for this more, as Linda was touching on earlier with her personal experience as well. The support from the press and partner organisations, including Hereford and Worcestershire Chamber, and employers across the region, the response to this programme has been overwhelming. There's been big levy companies or SMEs that have been really interested in enrolling either employees or themselves, business owners, onto these programmes to get themselves a place where they need to be. And they're just some of the headlines that have swept over magazines, newsletters, articles, LEPs, all different places that have really helped us push and support this, which has been really, really great. And we're happy to say we've now engaged with over 100 learners, and we've got nearly half of those onto coaching programs, with the rest shortly to follow. So it's going really, really well, and we are, which is what we always want to do, is making a difference and starting careers and helping social mobility, because that's the most important thing. So COVID-19, our current reality, where are we now? What's happening? What can we do? So we've all been impacted and we've had to get digital quick. There's been no other alternative, there's been no other option. We wouldn't be sitting here staring at our computer screens unless we'd all gone, okay, let's jump into this together, let's do it, we haven't got a choice, let's crack on, we sink or swim, and we swim. Our hand has been forced a little bit, but it's important to see this isn't just a bad thing. It's brought the inevitable closer, as Dan was talking about earlier, with where we were going, with how big the sector is. It's only contextualised it, how much we need tech and digital skills to fill the skills gap. Now we know that, now we've had experience of it, now we are fully immersed in the world of it, we need to harness and leverage those opportunities, because we all just want to do business better. And I think a lot of us are. We've been exposed to new areas, to new realms we didn't even think we could do, and we've taken on challenges that we didn't know we can really do, let alone succeed in. So I think people are doing business better, and will continue to as we get out of this situation. So how? What are the realistic business solutions of how you can put all this into practice? So upskill, reskill the talent that I can assure you already have in your business. Nobody's saying, okay, we're now in a digital era, get rid of all the other people in your business that don't know how to do that and get in a load of new ones. Absolutely not. Harness the skills you've already got, because you've already got them. We talk about an apprenticeship. You've probably already got an apprentice in your company that you just need to get to know what they like doing, know how good they are at it, and help them achieve it for them and for you. You could recruit that skill set that's required into the business. You could outsource it. You could acknowledge that you need it and outsource it from somewhere else. That's also fine. Not something that we're able to help with, but something that can help bridge that skills gap for you as a business. And there are platforms out there for you to do that, say with marketing or with software or with website building. It's there to do. You could also look at an apprenticeship for new recruits. or for existing employees. So somebody that is already in your company, you could look at getting them onto an apprenticeship. You could get them onto doing a level 3 or a level 4 or onto their degree that helps them be a solutions professional to your business. Apprenticeships are there to be taken advantage of, and they're a fantastic opportunity to give someone real life, real world experience that will help them grow and help your company grow. Or you can enrol eligible employees onto our Get Ahead and Digital Transformation Coaching Programme I've just touched on. So they're just some of the ways that we could help you bridge the gap. I'm now going to hand over to Louise, who's going to be able to talk you through the funding and the kind of nitty-gritty areas of how these things can help. So let's go one step further, and I'll hand over to Lou and she'll help you with the rest.
Thanks, Jess. So hopefully we haven't scared you too much in regards to all being replaced by robots and they're going to take over the world. And hopefully made you have a little think about some of the support options or solutions that are out there that your business may be able to benefit from. So the first one I'll touch on, people have probably heard, is about the apprenticeship levy, which came into play in 2016, predominantly for the larger organisations who have a wage bill of over 3 million or more, and they have to pay into this levy pot. The only thing that these companies can use the funds for is for apprenticeships, and draw actually that funding back to be able to spend on apprenticeships. The second option that you have is the Get Ahead or Beat the Bots, which is the fully funded kind of short courses or the short coaching programs which are available. These programs have already been funded, so there is no cost for any employer or any learner in regards to supporting somebody through this coaching program. So I know Linda was saying before about LinkedIn, thinking like, you know how to use it, but you learn a bit more around about hashtags and things like that. If you have something in your business that is already operating on LinkedIn or some social media platforms and they are quite interested in it, they could well be eligible to actually access the funding through the Get Ahead Digital Transformations scheme to develop their skills and be able to be an asset or more of an asset to the business that they already work in. In regards to apprenticeships, historically a lot of people thought of an apprentice as 16 to 18-year-old school leaver going into more of a manual trade. That has gone now. Obviously the 16 to 18-year-olds are still a thing, but apprenticeships are not what they used to be. So there's no upper age limit for somebody to do an apprenticeship, and people can do a degree using the apprenticeship funding available. There's local grants available through the councils in regards to supporting for new apprenticeships or new apprentices and recruits. So you can actually receive up to, I think the maximum that they give out is up to about £2,000 to any local business who engage with the apprenticeship scheme. There's also government incentive grants available to businesses that you can access of £1,000 for when you support an existing employee or take on a new apprentice who's in the traditional age bracket of 16 to 18. Probably the newest funding kind of bracket that has kind of come out is the levy transfer scheme. And this is all about the big corporate organisations such as the Amazons of the world that have a humongous wage bill and they cannot spend their levy, and they only have 2 years to spend it, otherwise it gets taken away from them. So the new kind of initiative that's been around is these large organisations are actually now partnering up with SME or smaller organisations to actually pay for their apprenticeship training. So if you're a small organisation that may have to pay 5% towards the apprenticeship cost or the degree cost, these large organisations will actually pay that cost for you to also help drive the number of apprenticeships which are available within the region. Obviously, if anybody's got any questions or wants some specific information on the funding options available, obviously please do let us know and I'll be able to give you some more detailed info on it. So again, leading on to apprenticeships, who, how and why, quite often is a question that I'll get asked a lot when I go out to meet with local businesses. So who can be an apprentice? Well, it's a minimum age of 16. Like I said, there's no upper age limit. I think TDM's oldest apprentice is 55. They'll correct me if I'm wrong, who is an IT manager at a company that's actually enrolled onto the degree. So it is available to anybody at any stage of their career. They're not just for new recruits, and they are available for people already working within the business. How do they work? It's a work-based learning. underpinned by academic rigour, and it's helping to support people to learn and develop practical skills. So it's 80% on the job training, 20% off the job training, and is supported through a coaching plan. And why? Why should businesses consider an apprentice? Well, it's been proven that it's a productive and effective way for any organisation to grow their existing talent and develop their existing talent, or recruit new, young, fresh ideas into the business to keep it moving forward. So our programmes, obviously we're tech and digital at the moment, ranging from level 3 through to degree. So we do a variety of programmes, from the digital marketer apprenticeship, which will support the businesses and the individuals to learn how to design, implement digital campaigns across the website and social media platforms. They'll really understand what content works, how to post that content, where to post that content, but also how to analyse it, to look at who's viewed it, how many views, where have they clicked to next on the page, and it kind of helps inform the sales strategies down the line as well. Then we've got the level 4 software developer, which is supporting people to kind of learn how to build and test code, whether that's apps, websites, or databases. The network engineer is, to be honest, is more of a progression route. A lot of people are taking it from their level 3, or councils have had network engineers as well, looking at building and designing communication networks to build in with the IT infrastructure. The infrastructure technician is probably, I would say, one of our most popular standards that we deliver for school or A-level leavers looking to get into the IT industry. But if you have somebody in your company that is probably your IT go-to person for when you've forgotten your password, or you can't log in, or you can't connect to the internet, or whatever problems you may face, and if you're anything like me, that's probably on a daily basis, they could be your IT go-to person and would really benefit from the infrastructure technician apprenticeship to kind of consolidate their knowledge and allow them to kind of progress. And then last but not least is the level 6 tech and digital solutions professional, which is the degree. This is funded like any other apprenticeship programme. So the government will fund at least 95% towards the cost of the degree for the business, or you can partner up with a nice big organisation that will pay for it all for you. And this really does what it says on the tin, is that person that is looking at your tech and digital systems that you've got in place, understanding them all and being able to look at how to improve them or offer solutions for your IT infrastructure. Within the degree, there's different specialist pathways, so people could pick to be a specialist in cybersecurity, network engineer, software engineer, business analysis, data analysis. Within the degree, they don't just learn their specialist pathway, they do understand all the different areas as well. So quite often the degree is very popular for people maybe in an IT management role, and their line manager may be a finance director, and they come up with these amazing ideas for the IT infrastructure for the business, and the finance director is like, absolutely not, that's way too expensive and we can't afford it, we haven't got the budget for it. The solutions professional will look at taking all of the business, financial, security things into consideration when looking at solutions for the business to help that business grow and move forward as well. Coming soon, as part of my role is going out and kind of meeting businesses, understanding skill sets that employers already have, and also what their goals are to move forward. So we are funded to be employer responsive. We want to hear what people's problems are and understand them to be able to offer some solutions. So coming soon for us, TDM, in regards of new standards and qualifications coming out, is the digital marketing degree, which is really exciting. The sales executive level 4 and the digital support technician. The digital support technician is more like, I'd describe it as the 21st century business admin. So it's very similar to administrative role, but it's moving it digitally, looking at the processes and systems that you have in place and what new systems could you introduce or develop to kind of improve the efficiencies within those processes as well. So hopefully, so far from today, you've kind of had a bit of an understanding of what digital transformation is, because it is kind of a terminology which is bandied around a lot, where it's kind of not understanding actually what it is and how it affects you on a day-to-day basis. And hopefully it's made you think about some of the skills gaps that you may have within your own business, or people that you work alongside that could be a good fit potentially to help you plug those skills gaps to make sure that you don't get left behind with the times. And hopefully we've given you some ideas of some solutions available to help you plug those skills gaps. Obviously we've kind of covered what we can do to help, but if there are queries or questions that you do have, or want answers on different solutions, please do reach out, because we quite often will happily, or we will always happily help where we can, and refer to any partner organisations if we can't support. We have a case study, but whether it will work or not, so I don't know if you want to give it a go, Jess. We may have to abort mission.
We'll see what happens. Give me the, I'll keep my eyes on you, Lou. Give me the thumbs up or the thumbs down, all right?
Okay.
No.
No.
Oh,
the reason
man.
that we chose an apprenticeship.
That's a shame. We can share it because it is really worthwhile looking at.
Yeah, we can share it all afterwards in regards to the videos, because it is a good video. It kind of talks about the apprenticeship scheme and training and how it's benefited a business, them talking firsthand opposed to us kind of just sharing other people's stories. And then, yeah, has anybody got any questions that they would like to raise, or if you want to pop it in the chat box, and we can kind of go through and answer any questions that you may have.
Can I ask a question? Are you happy to take verbal questions?
Yeah, I'm happy to take verbal questions.
Okay. Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. It obviously is a question of how you're getting this out to the various potential people that are interested in this. I work very much with manufacturing companies, but I also work as part of my volunteer work with schools.
Okay, great.
At all levels, from both primary school and also as enterprise advisor for secondary schools. Mm-hmm. And of course, they I see very much as being the focus point of actually getting these skills endorsed and implemented in terms of the future generations. But I also see the need to get the leadership side committed into it. And I'm not sure how many companies you've got actually on board at the moment in terms of the Worcestershire area that are A, aware of this scheme, and B, that are actually now committed and signed into it. You talked about 100 learners. I mean, obviously it's a starting point. 100 learners is how many companies? I mean, it could be as few as 10 companies, really. But unless you get the leadership, in my experience, having worked for a long time in companies, unless you get the leadership actually committed to it, then you are actually working in a bit of a vacuum.
Completely agree. And we have to get the leaders and the directors of businesses on board to identify that in the first place. The 100 learners is for the new Get Ahead scheme, which has only been running for, I think we launched it about a month ago, or the very end of March. So we've had 100 individuals sign up, which is probably across, I'd say, 60 different businesses as a ballpark figure. We also have the apprenticeship entity as well across Worcestershire and West Midlands. And I would say we have probably about 90 to 100 different companies that we are working with at the moment who have apprentices and support the apprenticeship scheme. But we're constantly doing more and more every day to try and get the word out there of what is available, whether that's school engagement. We do a lot of careers fairs, attend schools to kind of do presentations at assemblies and things like that, and also obviously attending events like these and networking events in our own marketing to kind of promote what is available out there for businesses and educate them of what a new apprentice or a new apprenticeship is.
Okay, so it's obviously quite a new scheme. How long has it been running?
So the Get Ahead in digital, the Beat the Bots Fund, we launched it at the very end of March. So we started running it then. So it's a new pilot scheme. Yeah.
So it's going to be September onwards before you can get into schools physically and actually do assembly presentations or whatever, which I'd be very keen, and if Nikki's still there, very keen through the enterprise scheme, advisor scheme to get them into schools, and you know, because that's really the starting point, isn't it? You know,
absolutely.
Schools, but also even to look at junior schools. To be frank with you, presentations into junior schools would be ideal, because again, it's getting the teaching staff involved as well. That's where the commitment's going to come from, in terms of you know, over the 50% of the secondary school pupils that are not going to go to university, and probably that's going to go up to 60 or 70% in the next 2 or 3 years. So there is going to be an absolute need to get the youngsters interested and understanding the importance of this through their teach leadership schools.
Absolutely. Sorry to just jump in temporarily, but when you say that, it's so important. It's such a big part of my job in particular, and a part of my job I absolutely love is going into the schools, and whether it's through an assembly or a workshop or whatever it might be, and having those real conversations with people, and whether it's, you know, 14, 15, 16-year-olds or people who were just about to leave sixth form, having those initial conversations and planting that seed, and just going in and saying the word apprenticeships, saying the word work, and talking about them in a realistic way is something I love. I did the apprenticeship. I did the digital marketing apprenticeship about a year ago, and I had no marketing experience prior to that, other than a passion and something I love doing. So being able to harness that, do something about it, and then get into a career I love doing that now has no limits is something that's really interesting to kids and to people and to students and people that are getting into that world, to know there is other options there, because you can feel very overwhelmed by things you should do and the path you should go down. And I feel like a lot of people, they want to work now, they want to earn their money, they want to climb a ladder, they want to get stuck in, and I think that's something that we should be listening to and promoting. So it's something I love doing, and I know Dan is the same, and Lou, whenever we get the opportunity to go out as a team and really drive that message home, it's always met really well.
I support that absolutely. I mean, you guys do a huge amount anyway around sort of working with the schools and around apprenticeship provision with the hub. I think, Mike, what we'll look at doing is sort of, if they're not already talking to the Careers and Enterprise company, is perhaps get you involved with the Enterprise Advisor Network. What we're trying to do is sort of keep all the enterprise advisors like Mike that are, you know, giving their time up to go into schools to help these young people with the most up-to-date information. It's really important that, you know, for example, if Mike didn't know about this project, that's actually probably several other enterprise advisors that are going into local schools that you are wanting to target, that would perhaps appreciate an update on that information.
Absolutely, yeah, having the most up-to-date knowledge and where these conversations can be had, and even if it's not us, it doesn't always have to be us and tech and digital that it falls into. We don't expect it always to be tech and digital, just because that's where we specialise at the moment. It could be a whole host of different areas. So just getting them to have a look, having a look on the Institute of Apprenticeships and seeing how many areas you can go into, and just researching and educating. It's so important, and just saying that word and having the up-to-date information and having the real conversations would be, any platform we're able to do that on and talk to people about would just be brilliant for us, and something we'd grab with both hands. So yeah, any opportunities would be fab.
Well, we've got there's an enterprise advisor conference, virtual conference on the 23rd of June.
Okay.
Which is being organised through obviously through the Enterprise Advisor Scheme and the Hub.
Is that the one that Sandra's organised?
It's one that's Sandra, yes. Apparently we've got the team there as well, apparently, and obviously that's an ideal opportunity if you space on that agenda there to just have a short sort of maybe 10 minutes of introduction to that, and then follow up with maybe you know, send something out to all the advisors. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I'll have a chat with Sandra, because obviously, as we've discussed, we're all changing the way we work, and they are, I know, looking at doing many more of these sort of remote meetings. So even if we can't get it into, or she can't get it into this one, it's certainly something that she'd be very keen to have on the agenda going forward. So yeah, leave that one with me.